Good evening, guys. Welcome to Saturday night. It's Pontificating with Pete on Revolutionary Change. And as you can see, this is a different background. And that means I could only be one place. I am at Jen's compound, as I'm calling it, in Northwest Georgia. And it's been quite the experience today to be here for the first time. Make sure that you all remember to like, share, and subscribe the stream. And I am rocking a keffiyeh for the first time. It's not mine, but in honor of being in fellow revolutionary home, and one that obviously supports a free Palestine. I have to wear this with pride, and I am. And so I hope you're all doing well this evening because, unfortunately, and it should probably come as no surprise to anybody, we have decided to start up again with Iran. And that is going to have many ramifications going forward because, as we've been trying to point out for the longest time, what you have to remember, everything is a sleight of hand when it comes to, oh, we're having disagreements with Israel. No, we're not. Just trying to convince people that there's actually some type of friction with us and that genocidal nation. And as a result, we're faced with the real prospect of things getting really out of hand really quickly. Thank you, Kimco. I appreciate that. And if you haven't noticed, this is pretty serious business because under the cover of night, you have the President of the United States sending 60,000 troops to potentially be in ground war with Iran. And so here's what just went down at the start of this weekend. So if there was any intention, any whatsoever, of avoiding conflict, avoiding war, that's over now. You're not bringing these many gunships, airships, attack ships, you name it. That's what's coming. And for those who may not know, Iran declared earlier today that the Strait of Hormuz is officially closed. So when we said that Iran was our checkmate, we weren't lying. This is exactly what we said would happen. And rather than admit defeat, they've decided, let's double and triple and quadruple down and put as many lives at risk as we possibly can. Colin, if you would, please pull up that tweet. President. There you go. So, it stands to reason why this is happening again. And now we have a pretty good idea as to why that is the case. 1,000 missiles are locked and loaded and aimed at the Islamic Republic of Iran, with thousands of more to immediately follow should the Iranian government act on its threat pronounced in many corners of the globe to assassinate or attempt to assassinate the sitting president of the United States. In this case, me. Can you believe it? Orders have already been given, and the U.S. military is ready, willing, and able for a 1-year period of time, subject to extension, to completely decimate and destroy all areas of Iran. Praise be to Allah, President Donald J. Trump. So, of course, he's flexing his muscles and acting like he's going to make a big deal out of this. I highly doubt it, but you never know. This is another example of the Hasbara that goes on. And as such, Israel, once again, has been popping off about how it's actually Iran trying to assassinate you. So they did it again. And of course, Trump is buying it. Or is he just going along with the program? And this is the back and forth that they pretend that they're actually having, when in reality, everyone is on the same team. And that's how this goes. The real danger in how many American lives will now be lost as a result of continued war games or outright war. Iran cannot be defeated. Iran has checkmated us, and we have decided not to do anything logical regarding how we back away from this. Their people are willing to die for what they believe in. You are going to send untold numbers of American service members to their deaths. And for what? You're not going to get the strait opened. That's over and done with. Until you have accepted defeat, that strait will remain closed, to you especially, and to us as a nation that will suffer as a result. Like I said, maybe this is all just a means to an end to get us to actually have a revolution, and maybe that's what's coming. But remember, we're doing it on behalf of a psychotic nation that just did this earlier today. U.S. Congressman says he was detained by armed Israeli settlers in occupied West Bank. Ro Khanna said settlers were armed with U.S.-made weapons and Israeli defense forces refused to intervene, so they say. Congressman Ro Khanna says armed Israeli settlers detained him during a visit to the Israel-occupied West Bank recently, describing the experience as a firsthand view of the realities faced by Palestinians living under occupation. In an interview with Reuters on Thursday from a Palestinian village, the progressive U.S. House Dem from Cali said his detention happened the previous day while his delegation visited an area of the southern West Bank that has experienced repeated attacks by Israeli settlers. Khanna recounts how settlers carried U.S.-made M4 rifles surrounding the group van. We were at a village that Israeli settlers had destroyed. They had destroyed the school. They had destroyed the village. And we are just looking at it. Referring to the IDF, which are funded in part by the U.S. military aid. Now it will soon be all of it. Khanna continued, and these hoodlums detained us. They blocked us off the road and then killed the IDF, and the IDF is on their side, not on the side of the Americans. Khanna also told Reuters, I saw the arrogance in the eyes of those settlers, 21, 22-year-olds with guns. And again, this is stuff we'll talk about in the video. Cameron Kasky, who we know is one of Khanna's aides, was there when the congressman's group was detained, saying the IDF showed up to back up the settlers, not the U.S. congressman, obviously. The New York Times first reported Khanna's account on Saturday morning, told the outlet, I felt powerless in that situation, which is not an easy thing, as I have a lot of privilege in my life. Well, at least he's honest about that one. And so there is the convoy getting stopped and ultimately arrested. Keep going. Imagine how people feel every day. Palestinians under the occupation. If they could make an American congressperson feel powerless for 90 minutes. Khan said he and his group were ultimately able to continue traveling after contacting the U.S. Embassy and Israeli police. And what if he wasn't able to do that? You know, what if he wasn't able to connect with them? What if he was on his own? Maybe they wouldn't have been heard from. As we scroll down, asked by Reuters whether he intends to run for president, Khanna replied, I'm strongly considering it, and I'm more resolved to consider it after this trip. Again, Ro Khanna, I think we told you, was running for president well over a year ago. I have on good authority that he's running. I'm not surprised he's running. And it'll be interesting to see if he is anything like what a Massey presidential campaign would be like. More than 700,000 Israelis reside in settlements across the occupied West Bank, including East Jerusalem. The UN considers Israeli settlements in the West Bank to be illegal, and Israel has faced repeated criticism over violence and other actions by settlers in the territory. Since Israel took control of the West Bank in 1967, restrictions imposed there have prevented the territory from developing a self-sustaining economy. Those restrictions intensified significantly after the deadly attacks of October 7th, 2023. Hamas attacks. Yeah, Hamas attacks. Nearly 300,000 Palestinians have lost employment in the West Bank. A June report issued by a UN Independent International Commission of Inquiry concluded that Israeli authorities and security forces have deliberately targeted Palestinian children, resulting in genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes in the Gaza Strip and war crimes in the West Bank. According to data from human rights organization Yesh Din, no Israeli has been indicted for the killing of a Palestinian since October 2023. And you still think it's not a genocide or an apartheid state? It's pretty rough. And here is what Ro Khanna had to say about his detainment.
I saw the arrogance in the eyes of those settlers, 21 and 22-year-olds with guns, laughing that they had detained us. The arrogance of those young IDF soldiers that my tax dollars are funding, having no respect for the fact that they were detaining Americans, no respect that there was an American congressperson in that bus, and laughing when our translator told them that there are Americans there and the American embassy is concerned. It is the arrogance of power.
And in many cases, it's unlimited power because, as is often the case, it's kind of one of the detrimental components to electoral politics. One of the biggest reasons why no one changes or no one does anything is because they all, not only are they showing you how little respect they have in regards to how much power you actually have. You have more than you think. But the thing you have to keep in mind is that when a voting bloc knows that voting is going to be done a certain way, then the people in charge don't have to do anything because you're not willing to do something else. You're not willing to vote for the other party or a third party or do something. It's the same thing with Israel and their genocide. We are not willing to do anything to stop them, almost overwhelmingly because it's financially related. But bear no difference to anything regarding this, because if they actually were threatened by the prospect of us not having their back or philosophy in terms of policy changing, then they would likely change too. Maybe not. Maybe they're so damn psychotic and nihilistic, apocalyptic, that they would be willing to just say, yeah, fuck it, we take care of ourselves, even though they'd be wrong. But I would like for them to have to do that. I'd like for them to have to answer for that problem. They don't seem right now to care one way or the other. What happens? Because they are convinced that we are too much of a cuck nation to stand up to them and stop this. There's too much financial benefit to too many people. And that's why they look the other way when it comes to genocide. Even genocide. Money be damned. They say it's the root of all evil. You can see why.
Of a power that has had no accountability, total impunity, and has created a toxic culture of oppression.
I thought it was actually kind of perplexing that Khanna said that he was going to the West Bank. I thought for sure that the reason he would do something like that is for scoring political points. And obviously him mentioning in the interview that he is strongly considering, running for president should not be any surprise to anybody. I mean, let's be honest. Ro Khanna has been prepping for presidential run for the better part of probably 4 or 5 years now. So it's pretty obvious he's going to run. I believe that he will be viable, but again, the Democratic Party has super delegates and a broken infrastructure, which you cannot break through. So why he's doing it? Hopefully to get more people behind the policies that he'll hopefully be pushing for. At least that's my hope. And we'll see what happens. It's best you can hope for right now. And lo and behold, war starts again, and Israel has their fingerprints all over it. And we are yet a little wiser, and maybe another person has woken up to the reality of our broken system. If that is the case, great. but we've got a lot of fighting ahead of us. And understanding all of these machinations within the system is a very unique kind of situation because, I am convinced that Zionism is kind of on borrowed time. I really do believe that it is. At least in terms of the power structure that they have over our country, I do believe that their time is limited as far as that's concerned. Colin, grab me I need the Dwight Howard clip and pull the ones that I'm done using. I think in regards to why people remain silent, there is a much bigger issue at play here. And I got into this last weekend when I talked about Jaylen Brown, the superstar and finals MVP from the Boston Celtics, who got traded for pennies on the dollar to the in-division rival, the Philadelphia 76ers. And I am convinced more than ever that a lot of it was attached directly to connections within Zionism, that the owners of the Boston Celtics are heavily invested in Israel and in the war machine. And of course, as we know, Jaylen Brown, very outspoken supporter of Palestine, which is, again, a very rare feat. And as such, here we have a throwback from just over a year ago, which should come as probably no surprise, that Dwight Howard, who was a major star in the NBA for many years, was once runner-up for league MVP, great, all-time great center. Here is what he said happened to him when he mentioned Palestine, just online.
Tweeted "Free Palestine," and I dang near got kicked out the league for it. And I'm like trying to figure out why. So I tweet "Free Palestine." Less than 10 minutes after I tweet that, I get a call from the commissioner of the NBA.
Stop it.
Agents, people working with my foundation at the time, Texas, you gotta erase this tweet.
It turns out that half the owners in the NBA are Jewish and affluent and Zionist. So Miriam Adelson of the Dallas Mavericks is not the only psychopathic, owner operator in the NBA. But as you can see, this is a clip from over a year ago, about a year and a half ago, that Dwight Howard sat down for this interview and mentioned getting into trouble with the league for saying "Free Palestine." What he isn't mentioning here is when he said this. This is going all the way back to 2014. This was in the 2014 NBA season that he said "Free Palestine" and was reprimanded with basically threats of being excommunicated from the NBA. I mean, Dwight Howard was still a major star in the NBA at the time. And the one thing I've noticed with certain stars is they have a little bit more leeway to do things, whereas a lot of others do not. We call them irreplaceable athletes because in the end, they're the ones who ultimately make or break whether you win or lose. And so somebody like Jaylen Brown or somebody like Dwight Howard have the opportunity to make a statement. It also goes to show you, and very good point, nice try, bud. Amari Stoudemire is a Zionist, very proud one. And one of the reasons this happened is because he took that paid trip. He took the paid trip to Israel. He took that paid trip. Comes back, all of a sudden he's in love with Israel. Go figure. Dwight Howard is not in love with Israel. In fact, I doubt that there are many players within the league that are in any way, shape, or form enamored with Israel. In fact, I would imagine a lot of them have a lot of sympathy towards Palestine and would like to say something about it. But as Dwight Howard has displayed here, he can't talk about it with threat of excommunication.
you got to take this down. You're going to get it. I'm like, what did I do that was so bad?
Can somebody explain to me?
Yeah, can somebody explain, you know?
The way that it is explained and the way that he ended up explaining it himself, because this is a shortened clip, but this also gives you an idea of why this is such a big deal. They basically told him, you will not work in the league. And this is what they hang over everybody's head. They basically tell you, you're going to do it our way, or you're not going to do it at all. If we tell you that you can't talk about Palestine, and that means you cannot talk about Palestine. If you do, you're in deep shit. And that more or less sums up what has happened with professional sports. Now, I am a basketball fan. It's a sport I played growing up. I love the game. I don't love what the NBA is now by any stretch. I think the game's changed for the worse. And I think that in many respects, LeBron James has a lot of responsibility for changing the league in a very volatile way in terms of how athletes conduct themselves, in terms of the commitment to the game. It's just not the same. And I believe, right now anyway, that LeBron James always wants to be the best, always wants to set the trends, doesn't always want the heaviest lifts. Well, guess what? If you want to be regarded as one of the truly great players of all time, you have to be willing to take the good with the bad and be willing to walk down the very tough roads. You've always sought the shortest and easiest ones. And that's unfortunate. But it's kind of like speaking up and out for Palestine. That is a heavy lift. It comes with risk. But it's also something that people in LeBron's position can afford to do because the league can't afford to live without him. Everyday players, they can't afford that. But in the case of LeBron, in the case of Steph Curry, we already exposed Steph Curry. Steph Curry's financially involved in major Israeli cybersecurity investments and drone investments to the tune of millions of dollars. LeBron, of course, has sung the praises of Israel, talks about wanting to go there, all that jazz. But they're not the only stars. There's a lot of other people besides Kyrie Irving and Jaylen Brown that could be speaking out. I wish Joker would speak out. I wish that the NBA wasn't run by a bunch of Zionist billionaires. But it all connects to capitalism and that the system will ultimately eat itself. And that's what's happening now. And that's what we have come to understand. The system, as it stands, will not sustain itself doing things the way that they've been doing it. And that also comes down to how much people are willing to put up with the bullshit that comes out of things like the bread and circus that is sports. This is from The Atlantic in 2014. Dwight Howard tweets and quickly deletes Free Palestine. Dwight Howard, the star center of the Houston Rockets, that is what he was at the time, one of two NBA teams with an Israeli player, briefly waded into the digital discourse on the ongoing battle between Israel and Hamas. He then very quickly jumped out. Dwight Howard, the star of the Rockets, in this case, the offending, depending on your take, tweet came late on Saturday afternoon, reportedly in response to a fan plea on Twitter. Some 15 minutes after it went up to his 5 million followers, it was gone. He quickly clarified. Previous tweet was a mistake. I have never commented on international politics and never will. Oh, really? Well, that certainly changed. And you get that talking to you. It's like you don't only take down the tweet. You are going to humble yourself. You're going to apologize. You're going to let everybody know how big of a mistake you made. And you will never make it again. Right, Dwight? And that's how these things work. This is the same in the NFL. This is the same in Major League Baseball. This is the same in golf. It's the same in hockey. It's the same in soccer, with few exceptions during the World Cup. everybody keeps their mouth shut because they know that as of right now, the US dollar is still the world's reserve currency for the time being. Israel is a vassal state for the US, gets all our money. So investing in big business with the world's reserve currency provider is what they're looking at. They think that that's the safe bet. Don't deviate from the current playbook only until the water is safe. But why would you want to wait? Can't wait. This genocide hasn't ended. And we have an obligation to continue using our platform to speak out against it. This violence and those who have a silence and complicity in what's going on. We also have to recognize that some people would really risk everything they have to say something and do the right thing. And that takes a lot of courage and a lot of guts. And not everybody is willing to do it. And I understand. I know that there's an expectation for people to do more than what they're capable of. So I understand. I also know that while we are currently observing the fallout of the Tyler Robinson pre-trial, there's no real point in further covering more or less the details that are what are being thrown out there. Because in the early stages, you must remember, and this is what's also interesting about the sort of battle lines in defense of whether you believe Tyler Robinson had anything to do with Charlie Kirk's assassination, much less did it. The dividing lines are between those that are paid MAGA influencers and those who are on the side of Candace Owens, Ian Carroll, Baron Coleman, me, and others. You get the idea. And I noticed that Ian Carroll and Ben Shapiro had themselves a little bit of a tiff online. I thought that this was important because he ended up saying some shit, which again should not come as any surprise because this is who Lil Ben is and what he does. And here's ultimately what came to pass in this conversation. Israeli, and again, if you're starting directly from where Ben commented, if you scroll down slightly, Colin, there you go. He's the R word, but he also has a mustache and delivered pizza for a living until he learned how to monetize idiocy on X. Now I just don't know what to think. Now, there's one thing that we know for certain about little Ben is that he's not only is he a Zionist genocidal nut job, but he's also somebody who clearly is a classist, as is the case with pretty much all affluent Zionist scumbags. They determine what a person's worth is because in the case of Ian Carroll, he was delivering pizzas. So that means he should be made fun of for having a job. Maybe not a job that is something that little Ben has ever had to do in his silver spoon spoiled ass bitch life. But a lot of people have to do things like deliver pizza for a living. And I got to tell you, if you're a grinder and you work hard and you do your job, you can make some decent money delivering pizzas. But in the eyes of little Ben, that's not what he thinks about. He thinks about it's not classy enough. You have to be a classy worker. If you remember, little Ben Shapiro made this commentary not too long ago.
If you're a young person and you can't afford to live here, then maybe you should not live here. I mean, that is a real thing. I know that we've now grown up in a society that says that you deserve to live where you grew up. But the reality is that the history of America is almost literally the opposite of that. The history of
No, you just like to create your own history, little Ben, and you just constantly can't help yourself. You have such contempt for people that are smarter than you, stronger than you, more vitalic than you. You're walking around with a little hat and probably a little pecker. The look on your face screams somebody who truly hates himself as much as he hates the rest of the world. But because he's been convinced that he's chosen, he is able to get away with what he's been able to get away with. In my opinion, he's not entitled to get away with anything anymore. Every time I see him and I am reminded of how bad he is for pretty much everything we do, it is a reminder that if you think you hate him enough, you don't hate little Ben Shapiro enough. You just don't. He should be getting punched in his mouth like this all day, every day.
You think you're better than me, Paul? You think you're hanging there all day, you're higher than me, you're better than me? Yeah, well, I don't miss you. You're not. I'm a father. I can think that you're not better than me at all. Yeah, I'll teach you.
And I'll tell you, he's the type of person who literally, if he wasn't getting wedgies or getting his butt kicked, he should have been. And if he didn't, it shows, because he's never had his ass properly kicked.
America is you go to a place where there is opportunity. And if the opportunities are limited here and they're not changing, then you really should try to think about other places where you have better opportunity.
Maybe. You might be right. And I say, Ben talks like this because this is how elitist chosen people think. This is how they choose to think. This is how they choose to talk. And now you have Ian Carroll saying, which again, I think Ian Carroll does good work. I think he tries to get as much of the important information out there, especially regarding the assassination. I think he's decent. Israeli gremlin thinks Americans that work normal jobs are all brain-dead idiots. Not surprising, really. Also worth noting, the entire time I drove Uber Eats as a side gig, my main job was a wilderness ultra-marathon guide where I guided runners on multi-day 100-plus mile mountain runs. But Ben's just recycling the Israel crowd's talking points because spreading Hasbara is his job. Yes, spreading Hasbara is his job. And I got to tell you, Ian, if your time was fully consumed with driving for Uber Eats, there's nothing to be ashamed of with that either. Having a job is something that everyone needs and should be proud of. It shouldn't be, well, I'm driving this. You should be able, if your job is a necessity, then you should be treated as such. Need delivery drivers for Uber Eats? Yeah, people need food delivered. You're providing a service. You should be paid accordingly. But like I said, in the eyes of little Ben Shapiro, it's not about whether or not you have a job. Thank you. I like it a lot. The keffiyeh is definitely giving me some more style. I think I might actually look better. Maybe I'm right. We'll get to that in a minute. People who denigrate those that work for a living are truly detestable bootlickers of capitalism of the worst kind. They've probably never worked an honest day's work they've never worked an honest day's labor in their life. And unfortunately, this is one of the biggest problems that I noticed when I was heading up here through Atlanta. For those that know anything about Atlanta and how the city is constructed and where the real money is, you have to go up into the northern suburbs, particularly in Buckhead, where I was last night. And when I was walking downtown in the commercial district, I noticed how many of the businesses that were there were all high-end retail and all different forms of high finance. Capital Partners this trust that. That's all you see. So much of our economy is based on no value creation. It's just, it's known as the managerial economy. It's known as the finance economy. But in terms of tangibles that we provide, that we create here in the States, oh no, That doesn't exist. So when somebody is actually doing manual labor as a job, I think that's extremely commendable. I've done plenty of manual labor jobs, and I don't think there's anything wrong with earning an honest buck. But apparently little Ben, as is the case of most Zionists, have a tendency to point the finger at those that they presume are beneath them, that they think are not worth being paid. I'll tell you, that's something that's going to change. That's something that we're going to change. So remember that. Remember the importance of not allowing these selfish elitist bastards to give you hell about the fact that you struggle to make money and they struggle not to spend it. Like I said, I don't even know if he would be good enough to do that. He's not that impressive. Thank you, Lisa. You're a doll. I appreciate that. And of course, little Ben probably hates his looks. That's why he can't really do anything but put shit on his pretend goatee and act like he's hit puberty at some point, those super large eyebrows. But anytime you hear him talk, you know, it's like he's sucking out of a helium balloon. And it's too bad. And therein lies same problem. There is something to be said for those that think that there is a difference between a conservative Zionist like Ben Shapiro and a liberal Zionist like Mayim Bialik. Now, I wasn't going to cover Mayim to rehash the old story that came out a couple of weeks ago regarding her being scared with her children, thinking that she was getting attacked. No. What really is going on here is there is no separation between a liberal Zionist and a conservative Zionist. But Mayim Bialik wants you to know that that's not true.
I cannot be asked to choose between being a liberal and being a Zionist. Every term and all of the nomenclature that many of us used to use, especially if we are, you know, liberals or Democrats, right?
Right.
None of that seems relevant anymore. This spectrum on both ends has been pulled so far that it's just a circle.
Totally.
It's like a messed up circle. So I don't identify, you know, with many politics of the far left. I mean,
Sure.
And I don't identify with many of the things that the Democratic Party has chosen to prioritize, not just for the Israel reason or the
No, that is the reason. We know that's the reason. You're not fooling anybody, you privileged bitch. Very convinced of their own importance. They always have been. Mayim is no different. When she says, I get to tell you whether a liberal and a Zionist can be one, and I am one of them. Okay. You can call yourself whatever you want. I would call you a shit lib, which I think is appropriate. I think that the level of comfort that you so unjustifiably believe you're entitled to, you know, you have a tendency to want to rub it in people's faces that you're very successful, very smart, very privileged, and you have the right to feel comfortable and safe while your people that you supposedly support are committing genocide, and you're very proud to support it because you think that if you can just kill all the Arabs, right, that'll make you feel safe, that'll make you feel better. No, it won't. But she's got more to say.
Jewish reason, I think many of us feel very confused about our identity as Democrats because I think the Democratic Party has really let a lot of us down. And saying that earned me accusations of being a Republican in my own home, right? That's how polarized it got.
Right.
That if you questioned what's going on in the Democratic Party, all of a sudden there's only one solution, that means you're a Republican. No, I got a lot of other choices in between, you know? The principles of liberalism hold true. no matter what. I believe in upholding the fallen and healing the sick. I'm okay with also living in a country where some people believe in the welfare system and some people don't. Like, I was raised to understand that people have differences of opinion. We don't go shooting each other in the street about it, right? So none of that has changed for me. I believe in many of the policies surrounding legalization of drugs, of prostitution. You know, I'm a liberal. However, this notion that support for Israel is in conflict with the Democratic Party is fallacious, and it's sinful.
Yeah, sinful. Oh, if only she could get a good look at me right now, rocking this bad boy. The Democratic Party, rest assured, the Democratic Party is going to choose the money. They choose the money every single time. When she says, I don't like the direction the Democratic Party is going in, no, what she's really saying is, I cannot believe the Democrats allowed Zoran Mamdani to become the mayor of New York City. And now there's going to be other people out there in positions of authority that are going to potentially be moving in the direction of Zoran, and that pisses her off, because the truth of the matter is that when it comes to a number of other issues, she probably is liberal. She probably doesn't really care or isn't completely unhinged about, you know, what people choose to do in their private lives and things of that nature. But again, this is why they're called peppers. Progressive except for Palestine. Yeah, terrible, terrible, terrible. Guys, if you haven't hit that like button yet, please share the stream. I want to get this out there as many people as we can. And in the case of Mayim Bialik, salted Bialik, the Democratic Party is never going to be overtaken by the progressive movement. If the Graham Plattner fiasco has taught you anything, and is now showing you exactly what they're going to try to do to Abdullah Said in Michigan, you just haven't been paying attention. And believe it or not, the same problem exists in the Republican Party. The difference in the Republican Party is that you have a big movement of libertarian-minded individuals who are willing to buck the trend and actually leave the party altogether and try to grow the, let's say the Libertarian Party out. Whereas the Democratic progressives, or the people who are progressive that are in the Democratic Party, they don't have the guts to leave. They don't have the guts to try something else. That's why they never get anywhere. That's why they are never taken seriously when it comes to voting. Because they always know that they'll fall in line. Because they don't have any guts. That's too bad. People should be having guts with people like Mayim Bialik and telling them, get the fuck out of the Democratic Party. We don't want you here. Anybody who supports Israel, get the fuck out. We don't need you. That should be the attitude. But it's not, because the Zios have a lot of money and power. So we have to suck up to them and kiss their ass and make them think they're important. Why do you think Mayim Bialik goes on podcasts acting like she's fucking cock of the walk? Who the fuck cares what she thinks? Unfortunately, she is part of the tribe and she's very well connected. So naturally, people are going to want to hear her opinion.
And in addition, whatever's happening on those far fringes of the right is also not appreciated. We have to get out of that binary, right? Absolutely. And this country is young, and whatever experiment we were doing seems to be revealing that there's something about this, binary system that is not meeting my needs, certainly, as a liberal Jew. There's a lot of moral inequity.
They're not meeting her needs as a liberal Jew, not meeting my needs. And if you don't do as I say, I'm going to call the manager, I'm going to speak to the manager, and the manager is going to do what I tell him to do.
It is egregious to treat one minority population with such disdain, hatred, disrespect, and intensity. When, if any other minority group received this kind of attention, there would be blood in the streets. That is the most suspicious aspect of what is going on. And this is what I tell my children. We don't have to agree on everything, but there's something conspicuously suspicious about the attention being paid to Israel.
Yeah. One more time.
Conspicuously suspicious about the attention being paid to Israel.
And of course, the reason she says that is because she does not believe in the genocide, because she does believe in the ethnic, cultural, religious, and social superiority of Zionist Jews over Muslims, particularly Palestinians. Even though a substantial portion of Palestinians are also Jewish and Christian, aside from Muslim, but you wouldn't hear that from her mouth. It's a colonial project, predominantly of Eastern Europeans, of which she is. I believe she's Russian. And she really, again, I do believe that what she says, she believes. I do believe Blossom. I believe that Mayim does believe what she's saying. I think she is that diluted in her understanding of, or in this case, her disconnect from everyday people. She really doesn't get how much she is despised, how much she is hated, how much she always will be hated. And in the case here, as you can see, Mayim Bialik faces criticism for contrasting her personal fear of an individual wearing an anti-Israel shirt with the experiences of children suffering from amputations caused by Israeli military operations. And as you can see in this next slide, while she is complaining about how she feels, because that's a big deal, if you look at the next slide over, you will understand why her hypocrisy knows no bounds. Now, this girl couldn't be more than maybe 4 years old, 5 years old. She's all, missing a leg. She has to learn to walk on crutches for the rest of her life. And this is a child who's alive. I think it's safe to say that hundreds of thousands of children are now dead. And she doesn't give one iota about those kids being killed. She may say it's terrible what's happening. That would have been an excuse, as Jen said, maybe in the first 2 to 3 weeks after it started, thinking that this would be quick. Maybe this wasn't anything that they really had any understanding about. But of course, it turned out to be a lot worse. It was infinitely worse. We said, happy to have you here, Alex. Yeah, we're going to get more into it in a little bit. In the case of what they've done to these kids, it's absolutely mind-blowing that anyone thinks that there is an excuse in any way, shape, or form anymore. With tears streaming down your face, would you hide me? You're gonna have to hope that you're gonna be hidden. Now, I wasn't looking for this. It was not my intention. I was looking for something else regarding Mayim. I was actually looking for an image that I ended up posting on the YouTube post for this evening. It turns out that if you really thought Mayim Bialik was nails on a chalkboard and a completely pretentious, unnerving, and detestable person, well, she decided to sit down for a Hasbara lesson to share with us with somebody just as detestable, if not even more so than her.
To another edition of You Might Be an Anti-Semite If, with Noah and Mayim.
You might be an anti-Semite if you actually think that the Jews or the Israelis doctored the videos that Hamas themselves took of themselves barbarically slaughtering a bunch of Jews.
Well, when you put it that way, we know for absolute certainty that videos have been doctored, stories have been exaggerated. And again, if you're on the side of the pro-Israel, pro-Western cause, you can tell as many lies as you like. You'll never get in trouble and never be held accountable. Not for anything. You can do whatever you want. And so right off the bat, this little video that they did together not too long ago is showing you that they really don't get it. They don't want to get it. And they want to make you hate them. And as I've said to everybody, especially those that may be here in the chat tonight, who believe it's a Jew problem or it is the Jew problem, whichever way you want to look at it, that is what the Zionists want you to say. They want you to say it's a Jew problem because that's how they protect Zionism. They can't protect Zionism as it stands. But if you say Zionism is Judaism, or if that's what you equate it to, that makes it a lot easier for them to defend it and keep pushing it. So keep that in mind.
If you in any way think that you don't really know what went on October 7th, Roger Waters, I'm talking to you, you might be an anti-Semite.
Well, let's do this. Here's two things that I think we can safely say. Number one, Roger Waters was not in Gaza on October 7th, 2023. I can also tell you for sure that Mayim Bialik was not in Gaza on October 7th, 2023. So when she says, Mr. Roger Waters, you don't know what the hell you're talking about, how do you know what the hell you're talking about? That would be the more important question. How do you, Bialik, know anything other than the Hasbara that you are given? If you ask me, I don't think she knows shit from Shinola, even though she is so pretentious about her over-education that she had the privilege of growing up with. I don't think she's that smart at all.
If you think that that footage in some way is not reflecting exactly what happened as it was broadcast from the GoPros on the terrorists' heads, sorry, folks.
You might be an
anti-Semite.
I will also say that when these events are planned and propagated by the Zionist state, who's to say that the footage they are getting is not directly from Israelis posing as Hamas, doing exactly what we said they were doing, which was the Samson option. You know, just kill them all. There's no distinction. There's no difference. So you just do what you have to do. You know, there's a lot of truth to that, but you would never say such a thing.
You might be an anti-Semite if you think that the solution to what is going on in the Middle East is that the Jews should just go back to where they came from.
Oh, I mean, I'm not saying that that's going to solve every problem, but I would say that all the Ashkenazis and everybody else that committed apartheid and now committing genocide, yeah, I think being kicked out of Palestine, that should be the least of your concerns. If that's your fate, be grateful that that's all it is. Because it's going to get so much worse than that. I don't care what they say. They really will, and do not have any idea. They have no idea how bad this is going to get.
Noah, why?
Why? Because the Jews have originated in Judea. This is actually Israel. The Jewish people came from Israel. There's been a Jewish presence in the land of Israel for thousands of years. The Jews are the indigenous people of the land of Israel. So there's
those two women want you to believe that they are indigenous to that region.
Nowhere to go back to.
And if you think we should go somewhere, you might be an anti-Semite.
By the way, being an anti-Semite can also mean that you're subconsciously biased about the Jews. So you don't necessarily think you're anti-Semitic. You have subconscious biases about the Jewish people.
I don't know, guys. I think we could probably take a poll to describe who would be the more insufferable of the two. It is really hard to say, but this is, again, what liberal Zionism looks like. It's an example of people who try to be socially progressive on domestic policy, but in reality, they don't care. Anything that is going to jeopardize their ability to live these very financially affluent, comfortable lives will never be called into question. And in the case of Mayim Bialik sitting with Noah Tishby, it gives you a pretty good idea of what their mindset is about and why being a part of this Hasbara provides you with opportunity. That is a huge part of what this is all about. Would Mayim Bialik have all of these opportunities if it wasn't for her cozying up to the likes of Noah Tishby? I don't know. But they are convinced that this is what's good for them. Again, it's only temporary because I don't think too many people really care what they're saying. They have drawn the conclusion that having Zionist Jews in control of almost every corner of our country is not good business, much less supporting genocide, but understanding why it's so significant. Why is this such a big deal? Because unfortunately, you do have a lot of opportunists out there that have their hands out, that want to be famous, for example, and want to be rich. And this, of course, brings me to Clavicular. I've never covered him before. I didn't want to cover him because this whole idea of looksmaxxing, I mean, I'm not going to say that I don't care about the way I look or that I, don't try to look presentable when I get in front of the camera. I think I do the best I can with what I've got. And in the case of looksmaxxing, at least this is my vague understanding of what it's all about. Essentially, what you have are very vain, looks-obsessed type people who do everything in their capacity to look young, chiseled, and sharp. But it becomes an obsession. And I think that there's a good deal of douchebaggery that goes with it. And I don't really know. And again, I'm not going to say that Clavicular is not popular with women. He is a good-looking guy. However, there are many reasons why people end up doing these types of stories. I think it's unfortunate what social media has created when it comes to the looks crisis, as I would call it. People become very insecure about how they look because they think they don't look good enough. And that's where people like Clavicular come in, and they try to convince you that you need to look like a porcelain doll almost. And in the case of Clavicular, the reason this is a big deal is because he did, in fact, go to the Holy Land. And whatever the reasoning is, because this is one of those paid, it's one of those paid Israeli trips. And here's what he had to say about his experience.
Are you self-funding this? Like, who paid for your flights? Who's paying for this?
Those are questions you don't want to ask.
Oh.
So,
Okay.
that's confidential, you know?
Okay. Okay, understood. That's obviously going to raise way more questions, like, with your
Yeah,
audience,
I just said that because it's a viral clip. I actually don't even know.
I can guarantee you that there's no government involved, that's for sure.
So, the name of this inbred that is over his shoulder, I want to make sure I get this right for you guys, because I've seen him around a few times, and I wasn't 100% sure who he was, but I think it's important we get this right. People want to know, the audience wants to know, who is this guy? So, his name, I believe, is Yossi. It is Yossi Farrow. So Yossi Farrow is this crazy-looking Zio scum over his shoulder, watching every word that he says, making sure that he doesn't get out of line with his language.
Yeah, no, I'm just.
No government money.
Yeah,
Is it
no,
Yossi? Like,
no government money.
So if he is so adamant about saying, don't think for a second this money came from Israel, rest assured the money came from Israel. As is a problem within these communities, inbreeding is common practice. When you look at some of the most distinguished Zionist families, like the Rothschilds, it's a common practice in a lot of different cultures as well. Inbreeding, marrying first cousins, for example, very common practice. This guy looks atrociously bad, to say the least. Maybe that's why he brought him there, to help him make him look better. Clavicular has more detestable bullshit Hasbro to sell you as well.
is this country a genocidal, fascistic place, or what do you want to look into there?
No. So I'm not a political guy necessarily, but
I was just paid a shitload of money to go to the Holy Land to witness the not genocide happening and having to get in front of a very popular streaming and say, no, nothing like you've been told is actually happening here. Can I get my check, please? That's how it goes down. This is a paid propaganda trip. He had his hand out, ready to go. He's not worth a lot of money yet, but he's trying to get there. And he's hoping that this springboards him. That's what he's counting on. And he probably will make a nice buck.
You know, you look up on TikTok about Israel, and it says it's like bombs and stuff like that. Right. But we're here, and it's not that. It's a good time, you know. It's we were walking around at 5 in the morning, and it's safe. Yeah, we're here to have a good time, explore the city. It doesn't necessarily have to have a million political implications. I see. Okay. We're kind of traveling around, meeting new people, and it's been a great experience. So it's
all in the name of the shekels. That's why you do this. You would have no other reason to do it. If I was that vain and obsessed with my looks, maybe I could be a looksmaxxer, but I think personality goes a much longer way. Now, I'm not going to say all models are dumb, but this guy sounds pretty fucking dumb. And of course, you have to be pretty dumb if you're taking photographs like this. So not only do you find yourself over at the wall, but you do it with Gavir. Did you have Gavir fuck you in the ass while you fucked the wall? Was it a nice little, triple shot going on? Is that how you get down? Because he looks like the bottom. I'm not going to lie. If Clavicular is into male on male action, I picture him as the catcher, not the pitcher. Just a thought. But he certainly has taken it really hard if he thinks that this was necessary. And not that I think he asked for it. I think they basically told him what he was going to need to do to get what he wanted. And what he wants is relevance. That's why they do this. But now, because he did this, I am convinced that he may very well have some very serious dirt under his skin, and he wants to make sure it stays that way. But it should never be forgotten that this loser of a human, looksmaxxing, likes to hang out with a bona fide mass murderer, a torturer, an animal in Ben Gavir. Is it really worth it? I have never watched anything that Caligula does, but I'm not going to. I just saw this pop up about how he went over there. And the only thing that struck me is, oh yeah, he's an opportunist. He's just trying to get paid. That's all it is. He has no other motivation. I don't think he's capable of thinking of anything other than, how do I get rich and famous? How do I get rich and powerful? And a way that he is convinced in his mind that he is capable of getting there is by being a spokesperson for Israel. I mean, let's face it, Israel is an extremely vain culture that constantly talks about how beautiful the people are there. So I guess they feel he's beautiful enough to sell their bullshit, and he's willing to do it. And apparently, the reason why he was willing to make this, pilgrimage over to this place, and why he did what he did, he clearly did a good job because he was rewarded for it.
And from J Drip gave me this beautiful necklace. Wow. And I don't really wear necklaces, so I think it would be beautiful for you to have it. Sure. So it's an OpenAI logo. You know OpenAI logo? Yeah. And you got a Star of David inside of it. Oh, cool. I think it's a pretty cool necklace. Show the camera. That's right. Look at this. Look at this.
So ChatGPT?
Yeah, basically ChatGPT, Magen David.
Oh yeah.
Let's do it. Anyone know how to put on a necklace?
I'll figure it out. I'm gonna have to make this a little so,
yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, let me make this a little bit.
Perfect.
Wow, guys, look at this. What a guy. Hey, thank you so much.
Oh, 100%. My pleasure.
Oh my God. Is there anything? Yeah, the one thing, Mary Ploppins, the one thing you could say about these beards, they're so weird looking. They're so nasty. There's nothing attractive about those beards. They're not even ZZ Top worthy. Unfortunate. But again, I need to know why he did this. Did he think it was going to help his career? Or does he have a lot of skeletons in his closet that he doesn't want coming out? I don't know. But it's deeply troubling when I see this shit. And it should be for everybody. You are selling out your country. You are making sure that American service members are killed. You're making sure that Palestinians are killed and Lebanese are killed, all because you're a greedy fuck who has no talent whatsoever. Your looks will fade. You will eventually get so desperate because your entire existence is based on superficiality that you are going to get every known surgery under the sun to keep yourself looking young. And by the time you're 40, if you live that long, you're going to look old, raggedy, and haggard because of all the shit you're going to do to yourself. This guy's not old. He's probably in his early 20s. But this vain fad that's going around right now, looksmaxxing, well, I could tell you they're definitely not doing anything like Jen and I were doing earlier, like playing Scrabble. I won. Not by much, but just enough to flex a little tonight, if only for one night. I have nothing to say. Maybe he is. I don't care if he's gay. I mean, he certainly, like I said, if he is gay, he looks like he's the one taking it. But with that being said, why would you feel the need to do this? That's I had X. It's not an excuse. It just worked out that way. I cannot believe that there is an Algerian. I don't know anything about that. I can't speak to that and whether that's true. I'm not going to say that you're wrong. I'm just saying that whatever the reasoning is behind looksmaxxing, if it is a white dominated subgenre, if that's basically what you're saying, I'm not going to argue it because, again, it's not my lane. I'm not overly concerned about it. But this is how it is, guys. And this is why guys like Clavicular have become a famous influencer of what I don't know. But this is an example of what happens when you get people who are just desperate for a life of comfort and power. And in the case of Mr. Clavicular, he's willing to do this. The Israelis have a lot of money to spend because they're spending our money. And that's what they're doing. They're shelling this out. And they are exposing why our system stays broken, may remain it. We have an obligation to try to fix it. But also telling the truth. Telling the truth is half the battle. And for those of you who have been following our channel that have been new, especially in the last year, you know that one of the primary reasons why I have stuck with and covered the Charlie Kirk assassination is because I believe that there is a direct correlation to the state of Israel and why it happened. And make no mistake, they are doing everything they can to keep the narrative in favor of this sort of lone nut theory, which has been going on for a long time. I have said from the very beginning, I don't believe for a second that Tyler Robinson was anything other than a patsy in the equation of this assassination. I saw enough amateur video that was taken that day to know that whatever they're telling you in terms of how he was executed, it is anything but that. I stick by the fact that I believe it was an explosive device in his lapel that was around his neck, that it made his neck explode. I believe that people like George Zinn get up in the crowd and say that it's them because they're in on the assassination. Nobody just shows up at an event when that person's been showing up at God knows how many significant events over how many decades. I don't look at anything outside of Mikey McCoy's reaction to immediately getting on the phone and somehow having a conversation with little Ben Shapiro. That makes no sense. Or the fact that there may have been explosive residue and devices within the SUV that Charlie Kirk was being dragged in. The fact that during the pretrial hearings, law enforcement has been grilled several times asking them, is there any video footage confirming Tyler Robinson's presence? The answer is no. Has anybody addressed the fact that the crime scene was paved over just a few days after it happened? Does anybody talk about the fact that there was that major meeting in the Hamptons after the Summerfest in which Josh Hammer got absolutely obliterated and humiliated by Dave Smith, a fellow Jew, but an anti-Zionist? Warning, Charlie, you cannot go down this road. And then Charlie not only didn't go down that road, but he said we shouldn't be going to war in Iran. And we know war with Iran has always been the last will and testament of Israel being able to do their Greater Israel project, of which they've been wanting to do since 1967. And so now we have to recognize that there are people in the midst who are going to say things about what's really going on. And they're going to know that there are those who are working against the interests of justice. Because in the end, justice is all that matters. You don't have to love Charlie Kirk. You don't have to love his ideology. But you have to love what our country is supposed to stand for. If it stands for nothing else, it stands for the Constitution. That's what it should stand for. But obviously very few people agree because they make up their rules as they go along. But being able to have those values held up as some beacon of what the American way is supposed to be. Again, we are a complete shill of everything we've ever said that we were out to be, because we're not. Our country is a disaster zone, and opportunism flies in our face left and right, and people are willing to put their hands out and say, give me the money, I'll do what you say. I have no problem with that. You put him in the Hamptons, he says he's not going to go along with it. You find the text messages between him and Candace Owens saying that I don't want anything to do with Israel anymore. You hear his conversation with Charlie, with little Ben Shapiro. That all changed. You learn about what really went on in Butler, Pennsylvania. You learn about what really went on in Provo, Utah. The tarmac, Erica Kirk's reactions, Andrew Colvit's reactions, Mikey McCoy's reactions, Blake Neff's reactions. It's one big cover-up. And there's another person in this equation, and you have to really ask yourself why there are people who still take anything that Nick Fuentes says at face value. Everything has to have a grain of salt, because the truth, it's hardly ever there.
Seen enough. I've seen enough. I've heard enough. That theory was ridiculous from the beginning. Whatever you think about Charlie Kirk, I obviously have my own personal, political, professional feelings about him. I think it's a horrific tragedy that he died. I think it's one of the saddest moments in our country's history, and I don't even think that's an exaggeration.
You know, I remember very shortly before he died that Nick Fuentes was constantly taunting him, constantly laughing at the prospect of somebody hurting Charlie, always thought it was a joke. And then when reality set in, oh yeah, things had to change pretty quickly. But for him to pretend like he genuinely cared about him, listen, we all saw the recordings prior to his assassination. where Groypers were calling into his show saying, are you too gutless to debate Nick Fuentes? You know he's going to wipe the floor with you, blah, blah, blah. And that went on for a long time. So in this case, there's no question that Fuentes saw a major economic opportunity to try to make himself look good and say that, oh, Charlie was my friend. I supported him. Because he saw a massive audience that was probably going to disappear from Charlie Kirk and was going to potentially find its way over to somebody like him. Now, that didn't happen, or at least I'm not sure it did. But he's very smooth. You know, Jen likes to talk about people in politics all the time that are smooth. And Nick Fuentes is smooth as fuck. That's why people like him. He's very good. He's an exceptional orator. He really is.
I really do. And as much as I have my disagreements, it's a disgusting, horrific act of brutality against a father, a husband. And I really do believe he was an admirable person. Even if I didn't share his politics, didn't agree with his approach, hard worker, the guy was the best at what he did. No.
Okay. Now, I'm sure some of you have probably noticed this, and I don't want to be picky about it. Actually, we've got to keep the screen big. Nick Fuentes has some really weird digits, especially his thumb. I don't know what the hell that is. It looks like a little snake growing out of the ground that is attached to his hand. Very weird looking extremity, to say the least. I always thought that there was something weird about that. It seemed like he had exceptionally large fingers. In this case, it's really weird.
No doubt about it. You can't not give him his due. I will tell you firsthand, as somebody that debates, I couldn't go and field any question from any college student at 200 events in a year. That's like a superhuman ability. Guy had it going on, okay?
Yes, but yet you insisted that he was dodging you from a debate question, and you constantly shit on him for not wanting to debate you because maybe you wouldn't be doing it in good faith. And now you want to say that you're kissing his ass? Again, that's not what you were saying prior to his death. And you have also been somebody who I have paid very close attention to when it comes to what you have said, point blank period, about Israel having any involvement in Charlie's assassination. You have insisted, almost to the point of being a Hasbro agent, of saying that there's no way Israel had anything to do with Charlie Kirk's assassination, and that's not why it happened. He's also somebody who has pushed the Tyler Robinson theory. This is a guy who's supposed to be thinking outside the box, right? But no. How could he if he's pushing that bullshit?
Horrific thing, but let's just be clear about who he was and what he represented. He was at the cross-section of the GOP base, which is increasingly these young white men on the campuses who increasingly are Israel critical. But he also sat between them and the donors. The donors, the big donors and the small donors, the middle-sized donors who are from a different generation. It's boomers, secular boomers, Protestant boomers, and a lot of Jews. And so he sat at the crossroads.
You're not going to convince me either that's an AI thumb or that's his thumb. Whatever the fuck is going on there, that thing's coming at you really close. Nick, shave your thumbs.
At a fateful inflection point in history, where the boomers are very pro-Israel, the donors are very pro-Israel, the institutions, the establishment is going one way, and the young people, who it was his job to corral into the GOP and organize and get them involved, they were going very anti-Israel. So why is there this contention? Why is it controversial? Was he on the side of Israel in the pocket? Was he turning against them? Well, I think the picture is a reflection of the moment and the position that he was in, which is that as a turning point leader, as the turning point founder, as the guy whose job it was to speak to the younger generation And he did it every day on TikTok, on the campuses. He realized the extent to which Israel was falling from grace and losing popularity. He saw firsthand how unpopular it was becoming with the young people.
And once, this is of course assuming that the organization Turning Point USA was on the level, that it wasn't funded by the Zionist class, and that's ostensibly how it grew to be what it became. What you have to remember here is, and this is a key factor, if it was up to him, do you really think that Charlie Kirk was going to go against the grain of where the youth were going? Perhaps he was influenced by the direction that the young conservative youth of this country was heading when it came to the state of Israel. Whether their motivations are the same of young leftist individuals regarding the state of Israel is kind of neither here nor there. And the one thing we've learned, especially in the very quick aftermath of the Graham Plattner fiasco, the left does not know how to win battles. The right does. And the populist right, particularly those that are behind the likes of Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Ian Carroll, and the like, are going to fight. Now, I know a lot of people think that Nick Fuentes is a part of that fight, but I don't agree. I don't think he is in that fight. I think he's a total fraud. I know a lot of people like him, and I understand that, but the bullshit that comes out of his mouth, while I know a lot of it is for shock value, when you're talking like this isn't shock value. This is you're being a useful idiot or a valuable asset. Maybe both.
He saw firsthand how attitudes were changing about Israel, and he knew there was a problem. He knew that was a problem for Israel. He knew it was a problem for the GOP, and increasingly it was becoming a very acute problem for him, because the more that he defended Israel, the more it hurt his credibility. If your job is to get the young people involved and excited and organized, and they all hate Israel, and your job is to go and defend Israel, it's going to create a lot of friction. And I believe he was unhappy that he was put in that position. And that was reflected in the letter he sent to Netanyahu.
I think the only thing he was upset about regarding the letter with Netanyahu is that he didn't want to be dog-walked by the donors of TPUSA anymore. They were told, no, you will be dog-walked. You will do as we say or the money goes away. And his attitude finally became, fine, take it away. I'll figure out another way to raise it. He called their bluff, and they could not have that. He was too valuable of an asset. He was causing way too, and again, I don't think that, and this is more of the reason why I'm convinced more than ever that Israel was behind his assassination. This whole Tyler Robinson case is just a distraction. The biggest reason why I am convinced that Israel did the deed or made sure the deed was done is because they don't give a fuck who wins elections. They don't care that Charlie Kirk amassed a following of maybe 5 million plus people within his organization. That doesn't mean anything. So you win a few elections, big fucking deal. You know what does matter? If he's telling his 5 million plus followers, especially the future of this conservative country, that they should not be supporting the state of Israel, oh, he's got to go. As in, we are not only going to eliminate him, we're going to do it in full view of the public so they get the fucking message. And yet, meanwhile, Mr. Paid Asset, as far as I'm concerned, Nicky Boy here, wants you to believe that there is something else at play, and there isn't. The second people start getting this issue wrong, especially those that are high up in the game, don't ever trust them again. You know what can take a lifetime to gain trust? And a fraction of a moment to lose all of it? You constantly have to show exactly what in terms of integrity you have every day. Have you lost it? Have you kept it, gained it, etc.? But the second you lose it, or you show that you have none, you'll never get it back. And the only people hanging on are people who refuse to see it. That's how it works. And to be honest, that's how it should work.
He said, listen, man, I can't do all the work. I'm holding down the fort defending Israel, but you got to meet me halfway and help me. Because these are losing arguments, and my job is to win arguments. These young people are not convinced, they don't like you, and the more I defend you, the more they don't like me. Help me help you. That was his message to Netanyahu. I think that was his message at Turning Point SAS in July of 2025, when he had Tucker talk about Epstein and he had the debate between Dave Smith and Josh Hammer. And I think that is what he conveyed even in those private Telegram messages.
If you didn't see the debate between Josh Hammer, Timu Ben Shapiro, and Dave Smith, this was last summer. It's about, I think it was July of 25. See that debate. Look up the clips. I mean, they didn't want Dave Smith at the event to begin with. And then he sits down on that stage with Josh Hammer, and he literally hammers Josh into oblivion. In full view, one of the most popular big events of the year for TPUSA and conservative youth politics. They got the message. And yet, Charlie remained defiant, to his credit. And in his final messages with Candace Owens, he indicated, yeah, this might cost me my life. And it did.
But he was also on the side of the donors in the sense that Turning Point was a very rich organization, deeply connected to the Trump administration. And we know how much juice, we know how much power the Zionists have. So he also couldn't really upset them either. He couldn't completely alienate those guys at the same time. And I think this is where this perception comes from, that he was about to have this ideological epiphany and he was going to go against Israel. I think it represented a frustration.
Again, this is a person who wants to deny that Candace Owens nailed his ass to the wall and told him, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I have the receipts. I have the records. I know what Charlie was thinking. I know what he was saying. And yet he wants you to believe that, don't believe Candace and don't believe Charlie either. He didn't mean what he was saying. Here's what he really meant. Is the check in the mail for him as well? Probably. Let me sidebar this for a second. We did a clip on Jaylen Brown that recently gained traction. For the first few days, it wasn't getting much of anything. And then the next thing you know, it went from like 1,500 views up to 15,000 views. And what I found out that the Google algorithm within YouTube does, you know what they do? They really only let you get paid. The money that you're going to collect comes within the first 48 hours. After that, even if you see a major surge, you're not going to get compensated for it. If you think that they don't fuck with us, they don't throttle us simply because we're telling the truth, simply because we do go max and we do not hide a fucking thing from anybody, because at least we can live with ourselves. That is a big part of it. And that's why you see people like Clavicular, for example, going over to Israel and offering to sell out. Tell me what I need to do. Like I said, do I have to take a circle jerk in front of the wall? Do I have to take it from behind and give it at the same time? Who cares? You're going to pay me? You're going to make me more famous, more powerful? Oh yeah, I'm in. And that's really how it is. We have to be able to live with ourselves, knowing that the platform we have is being used for good and nothing more. And in this case, the good we're doing is helping people who still think that Nick Fuentes is worth following to give it a second thought.
That he was being torn in two. He had to be bipolar because he would speak to the donors and he'd speak to the young people, and the donors wanted one thing and the young people wanted something very differently. And I think it was out of frustration that he was saying, I can't please everybody here. And I think that's why there was this appearance of a flipping or something like that.
There is no appearance. It is exactly what happened. It is pretty obvious that that's what happened. Otherwise, he never would have been killed. But as I mentioned before, little Nicky has made it a habit of insinuating that Tyler Robinson did in fact do the deed on behalf of his furry boyfriend. God help us all. Now, do I think it's possible that Tyler Robinson was involved? I think he could definitely be a patsy. I think it's, very much like a Lee Harvey situation, where he may very well have been in intelligence or with some training in intelligence, which is what is being taught at Utah Valley University. That is a big part of it. And getting caught up in these clandestine type operations where you just don't know. You didn't know that the joke was on you. Maybe you know now. What I think is safe and should be understandable for most, as long as we keep pushing for the truth, as long as we continue to use our platforms for good and do the things that we need to do, even if it means that there's certain people that don't want to communicate with us, that don't want to support our efforts because we're flying a little too close to the sun, whatever the case is, these are the conversations that need to happen. These are the conversations that are essential. And in the case of Lance Twiggs, the furry, if you listen to his testimony that he gave, you would think that he was a Fed. It just doesn't make any sense. But again, it's not supposed to. And everyone thinks, oh, they can't possibly get this many people under their thumb. Trust me, they can. And now it's a lot easier to do it because of surveillance technology. Why do you think Palantir is the most dangerous company we have out there? And I also want to point out that even though we're not going to have a lot of wins, there are still going to be losses. There are still going to be these unexpected bumps in the road that is going to make it very difficult for us to try to take that next step. Are we going to kind of clear a hurdle? Are more people going to wake up to this reality that what is being pulled over our eyes is a cover-up? The attempt to cover our eyes with a cover-up is what is being perpetrated upon everybody right now. I don't need to get into the details, the itty-gritty details of the Tyler Robinson pre-trial hearing. Again, this isn't even the trial. This is pre-trial. All I know is I've heard enough from the clips that I've listened to know that this is just a dog and pony show. This isn't real. And anyone out there that you can see that are part of these big accounts, Tim Pool, Jack Sobek, Gunther Riegelman, I can go on and on. Once you know the direction that they are promoting, just understand that you should be promoting the opposite. That's effectively what's happened. And maybe they will get their phony show trial and conviction and God knows what else. But the people will never believe it. People with an open mind understand what went on here and why it went on. Nothing was as simple. So, are there any possibilities where we can have some fun at the end of the evening? I believe we can. And of course, I have been on for a while about what's going to happen in other parts of the country pertaining to Israelis and what they're going to do, particularly in South America. You know, a lot of people think that World War III is coming in the Middle East, in West Asia. But in reality, I think that maybe the most likely place it could happen is in South America because of all of the positions being fortified surrounding Brazil. Remember, Brazil is in BRICS. They are aligned with China and Russia, South Africa and India. However, all these other countries are basically being taken over by this Western corruption. It's unfortunate. We saw it just happen in Colombia. We know what's going on in Argentina. Little do we know about what's actually going on in places like Chile and Peru. But here's an example.
Isn't it insane? Israeli groups are plastering soldier stickers all over campsites in Peru. and putting up no entry signs like they own the trail. This is a campsite where they are put, and it says prohibited. Even my local guide is fed up with it. I mean, is this what travel entitlement looks like in 2026?
Yes. And in a lot of places, they are going to, unfortunately, be taking over a lot of the territory. This is, again, what happens as long as the US dollar is the world's hegemon and reserve currency. You will have this problem. The Israelis are going to continue to take money out of our ATM machine. And what the hell do you think happens when we have a $1.5 trillion military budget? How much of that do you think is being allocated over to Israel? And the people are getting the money. Probably too much. That being said, the Zionists, they're starting to get their comeuppance. They're starting to get confronted, as they should.
Can we ask you how you feel about Palestine, sir? Sir, can we ask you how you feel about Palestine? Sir, I say sir. Sir, I say sir, sir. Sir, where are you from, white man? Sir, where are you from? Don't be scared now, sir. Where are you from?
I'm a reporter,
Why'd you come here? You're a reporter from where? From what? From where? From where, you jabroni?
I'm a reporter.
You're a reporter. Guys, watch out! We have a Zionist here. We have a Zionist in our midst. This guy is a Zionist. Beware of him. Beware of this guy. Please beware. Beware of the Zionists. Beware!
Now, this is all fun and games, but I got to tell you, and PNN, which is Palestinian News Network, this is the gentleman that follows all of the Israel lobby-funded politicians on Capitol Hill, among others. He does a really great job. And in this case, he's going directly for the throat of a Zionist scumbag that is trying to get in the middle of a pro-Palestinian protest in front of the Capitol. And when he says he's a journalist and he can't say where he's from, he's not a journalist. He's a Hasbro agent. I mean, he's definitely working on behalf of the Zionist cause. There's no two ways about that. I think that's a safe bet. But man, they really want you to believe that they're from the Middle East, West Asia. This guy looks like he's from Antarctica. Looks like the sun doesn't agree with him. But of course, when you're chosen, you believe anything, as long as it's to your benefit.
Bro, you're gonna cry, bro. TikTok's gonna see you cry, bro. You better not cry, bro. You're going viral today. Don't cry. My name is El Hastizi. It's a traditional Arabic name. My name is Kshama. My name is Yakhrabeta. I'm with the H team, Kha. I'm with the people that start with Kha. You look scared now, huh? You look scared. You're scared of the Kha people. The Kha people, you're very scared. You're chicken. You're chicken boy. You're little chicken boy. You're a chicken boy. You are the chicken boy. Chicken boy, chicken boy. You are just a chicken boy. Chicken boy, chicken boy. Sir, I say sir. Sir, I say sir.
So, is it possible that he is with Haaretz or Jerusalem Post or, some organization that is pro-Israel? Maybe. It's possible. But I think he's just one of those Zio bastards who wants to get in the middle of those organizations, wants to start trouble with one of them, and then he wants to claim that he was attacked. All I was doing was minding my own business, and they came after me. Yeah, that seems like the type of thing that he would do. That is the type of thing that he would do. I think that they should be confronted wherever they go with whatever they do and whatever they say. I don't think they should have a moment's peace. I think they should feel uncomfortable, just like they've made the entire world feel uncomfortable, knowing full well that they would hurt anybody who got in the way of their Israel First project. That's our job. Don't let them ever feel safe. They do not have the right to it. It's a privilege. Just like the Palestinian children, should be safe, but they're not. And if you're talking about Lakewood, New Jersey, I see what you're doing there. Speaking of Jersey, this is my backyard. This is a barbershop. And I believe this may have been Paterson, New Jersey. Now, I don't know how many of you know who Matt Friedman is, or Nate Friedman, excuse me. But this one hit a little too close to home, and he didn't like it. So he felt the need to go into a barbershop that seemed to think that not only is Free Palestine a good thing, but that Israel is kind of responsible for a lot of the bloodshed that has bestowed upon our nation for such a long time.
On the street, I noticed this barbershop put a shirt out in the window that said Jews did 9/11. I wanted to ask the barbershop owner about it, and then this happened. What's going on? Can I ask you a question? So I'm from Manhattan, and I'm doing a video on Paterson, New Jersey. I'd love to speak to someone who works with this barbershop.
Right there.
You work with the barbershop? I just didn't know if you were waiting to get a cut or not.
Yeah, what's going on?
You work for them? I noticed an interesting a shirt on the window.
What are you guys, first of all?
I'm a journalist from Manhattan.
What are you? What's your background?
My background? I'm an independent journalist. This is my...
Are you a Jew? Are you a Zionist? What are you?
Am I a Jew or a Zionist?
Yes.
Why does it matter if I'm a Jew or...
You can see that he saw through the entire scam right out of the gate. Good for him.
Zionist.
Take a walk, buddy.
Why does it matter? Why does it matter if I'm a Jew or a Zionist? Oh! Why does it matter? Okay, so he just shoved the door in front of my face.
I got to tell you, that's a really great shirt. Jews did 9/11? Well, here's what we know for sure about 9/11. We don't know anywhere near the truth that has been given to us. But we've been able to piece a lot of what happened on 9/11 together and know that what we've been sold is a lie. So, should we do something about it? I think we should. And if that means that one has to jump to very overt conclusions as to say how it really went down, whatever we were told, that's clearly not the case. And now we know, it's not just the dancing Israelis, it's everything. It's Cantor and Fitzgerald. You know, when Nutluck does what he does, and then Silverstein does what he does, and we're never investigated, yeah, people are going to jump to conclusions that are probably not as far off from the truth as you might think. And this isn't just for one particular event. This is for many events that have been directly tied to us for so very long. And we have an opportunity to break away from them. The more the noticing continues, the more likely people are going to say, I don't want anything to do with Israel anymore. I want to be done with this. I don't want to have to think about this. It hurts our country, and it does. So we have an obligation to do something about it.
His shirt says Jews did it for 9/11. Let's ask this person. Keep filming. Hey, I have a question for you. I have a question.
Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, let's ask these people. Hey, did you guys just see me get kicked out from there?
I don't want to be on video, bro.
Did you see me get kicked out there?
Be on video, bro.
Okay. That's Yahya Sinwar on his window, the architect of October 7th, 12.
Oh, no. Wait a minute. That's the architect of October 7th? Yeah, no. The architect of October 7th is the Israeli Mossad. We already have footage of them confirming what they wanted and having happened. See, again, we have to deal with these Hasbro bastards, and they just find their way in here. By the way, I like the attire that he's wearing. Pretty fancy.
1,200 people were killed.
Now, I have seen some pretty punchable faces, as I'm sure you have. But that guy really, really wants to get socked in his mouth. And he probably hasn't been as much as he should be. The thing we know about these stories that we cover regarding these Zionist scumbags is that they have a disposition about them that makes one get very agitated or even triggered. And whatever that's going to take. You see, that's not the type of statement that somebody like Nate Friedman is going to make. He's looking for a good soundbite and a good opportunity. And of course, when it comes to dealing, in my opinion, yeah, David Portnoy does the exact same thing. And guys, if you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Please make sure that this gets out to as many people as possible. We have to fight that algorithm every time we go live. As you know, we're getting slammed, but we appreciate your amazing support. I would also say that this is a very big, considerably significant moment because these types of content creators are not having anywhere near the level of success that they once had. They're looking around wondering, why aren't I generating as much interest? And even then, I'm not sure it matters as much because as we know, when it comes to little Ben Shapiro's Daily Wire, they're looking to pump up the value of their company and sell off the parts, so to speak, to some sucker who's going to take them on. They're not worth anything anymore. That's why they got to get desperate and bring guys like Clavicular over there, thinking that he's going to help Israel's cause. No, you're not. Israel's cause is dead. They just don't know it yet. I mean, we knew it. We know it. And we're going to keep talking about it. And we're going to keep showing these jack-off Zio bastards what's coming for you when you get in the way and in the future. You're going to get exactly what you have coming to you. Nate Friedman is no different. And I would almost push the stereotype of, oh, you want to claim assault? Here. I am surprised that somebody hasn't knocked Shmuley's wiener nose off of his dastardly troll-looking face and dare him to sue them and bring them into court and continue to fulfill the stereotype. That person touched me. I want to sue him because they can't physically handle themselves. So they're much better dropping bombs on women and children because they can't defend themselves the way that other men can. These guys aren't men. They're little boys. They're genocidal maniac little boys, but they're little boys nonetheless. And we have an obligation again to use our platform, to use it the right way. And that is to acknowledge that there is no way to win this fight by going soft, by thinking maybe we could talk our way out of this. Nope, there is no talking out of this. This is a blood sport now, and this is going to end very badly. Great movie. And a great reference. They're both the boy and the wolf. Jen and I have talked a lot at length about why the victories that we seek are not going to come from the left. They're just not. And part of the reason why they won't come from the left is because there is still this belief that the fighting could be done within the Democratic Party establishment, and it just can't be done. So if you try to go down that road, you're wasting your time. I am not going to waste my time. I'm not going to get used to it control your vessel. No one should. We have an obligation to fight, so let's fight. Anybody in the chat who thinks that I'm going to give you the satisfaction of addressing anything that you say, it's not going to happen if you're trying to troll. It just doesn't work. I appreciate you contributing to the algorithm, and I won't kick you out of here. You can say whatever you want. Don't attack other people. That you can't do. If you want to give me shit, say whatever you want. I don't care. And you know I don't care because I don't stop you and I don't engage you. If I was truly bothered by you, I would just kick you out. But I'm actually not going to do that because I know that you won't stop commenting and that won't stop helping other people see the channel. So thank you for contributing. I appreciate it. And that, of course, gets to a very key problem that many of us have now seen. As it relates to what happened with Graham Plattner and what is now going to be attempted to be done to Abdul El-Sayed in Michigan, the other and maybe the most outstanding element of all Kshama Sawant is the best candidate running for higher office right now, in this moment, against one of the absolute worst representatives in the entire country. Now, as we mentioned, this upcoming week, we are officially dropping our billboards that will appear in 4 different locations throughout the Seattle area, and we'll hopefully get her over the top by August 4th. That being said, there are going to be excuses after excuses after excuses as to why those that are in, let's say, the DSA, those that are supporters of the Democratic Party, are not going to lift a finger for Kshama Sawant. And they will come up with every single excuse that they can think of as to why they are not going to help her. Here's one of them. I don't know who Vibe Instructor is. She has a decent platform. Unfortunately, Kshama Sawant is so off-putting to me, just relentlessly negative. Well, you see, guys, we've had Kshama Sawant on our channel multiple times, and I think we've had very good conversations. Is she overwhelmingly negative because the entire system sucks and is broken, and we have to stop pretending that we can salvage it? I don't know about you, but I would think that that's a pretty good reason to be a little ticked off about everything that's going on right now. Some of the comments. Unfortunately, it's because things are that bad, and she's correct. I get it can be off-putting to many, but I'd take her any day to fight for the policies I believe in. And that is an excellent point. Why would you not take somebody who is going to fight for the policies that you believe in? I do not trust AOC. I don't know what she's passed recently or what she is currently fighting for in Washington, specifically because the clips in my feed are never about that. Oh, you just don't like her because you say that you don't like the way she talks. So also feigning ignorance about what she's actually fighting for. If you know enough to comment on whether or not Kshama Sawant should be supported for Congress, you should know enough about what her policies are. Seeing as how you're a she-her leftist, you would think that they would at least know the deal in terms of what they're supporting. Or not. She did legitimately really cool things and burned like every bridge ever possible in the history of ever in order to get those policies through. Yes, she did have to burn a lot of bridges because she went against the corporate establishment. Another person says, that's a you problem. Congrats, you caught the part of the tweet that specifies to me. You know what I found interesting? The fact that this tweet went pretty far, that a lot of people liked it and shared it and subscribed. And again, it gets back to what we've been maintaining forever. The algorithm is a dishonest representation of where people are politically. And in many cases, these are coming from bot accounts, making you believe that they're really popular when in reality they're not at all. Would you rather someone relentlessly positive at the expense of being realistic? I wouldn't. And this person says false dichotomy. Actually, it's not. It's actually very honest. A lot of people can't handle the truth, so they like a softer blow. Keep scrolling. This dumbass with the Ukraine flag has to say, laugh out loud, I could go on and on about why I dislike her, but I think she's a narcissist with a messiah complex, to put it simply. If she's not the center of the movement, then the movement is invalid to her. That's why she's made so many splinter organizations. She's the main focus. Are you nuts? The only other organization she have is Workers Strike Back. You got a problem with Workers Strike Back? Apparently. No one would ever accuse a lot of progressives of necessarily knowing the score. I'm not saying that it is a universal problem, but you get these overwoke ones in particular, that political nuance is just not within their vocabulary. I often think about what she's like when canvassing. In my head, she catches normie people off guard in a grocery store parking lot by somehow turning a simple hi into a lecture on why everything is terrible. Well, you know, most things are terrible, FDR Wallace Dem. You call yourself a Henry Wallace Democrat and you're shitting on Kshama Sawant? Change your name. Change your entire makeup, because it's a disaster. Correct. I don't know why Joy platform her. I don't know why Joy platform Tucker Carlson, just a mess over. Fuck that shit. Let's end with Roof Dog. I come to find her hater behavior endearing, consistent, and often correct. The people in politics are not supposed to be your friend. In fact, one of the worst elements in politics is when people become friends, because then there's a chance that they're not going to do their job. And especially if they're on the corporate dole, you know that they won't do their job. And that is the danger in people having a love of personality in politics. It's one of the biggest sins of all. These people are not supposed to be your friends. You are not supposed to be celebrating them. And yet, we have this crisis where dominant personality is what ultimately gets people excited about a political candidate. Don't fall for it. And if our channel does nothing else, we hope that you can share that similar sentiment. But I personally think that Kshama Sawant is great. And the fact that you don't even know enough about her politics to know that she's running against perhaps the worst Democrat going right now in Adam Smith, who is attempting to merge the Democrat. They're trying to merge the U.S. and Israeli militaries together, and he was the author of that bill. This should be the primary focus of everybody right now, helping Kshama win. Just like we know that the best strategy in front of us regarding Debbie Wasserman Schultz is supporting Sheila McCormick. And there's statistical data to back it up. We're not here to win popularity contests. We're just here to help and to help everyone help themselves. That's our job. We hope you enjoyed the show tonight. If you did, please consider going over to patreon.com/revolutionary change for as little as $5 a month. You can become a supporter of our small but mighty, despite heavily suppressed, yet still growing channel. And of course, we also have a Substack. I want you guys to be able to check that out as well. At Substack, I haven't written too much lately, but I will be getting back on the track as soon as I am home. I am, as you guys know, on the road right now, visiting Jen's compound, as I call it. It's a farmstead, how to say it right. And it's been great. I like, being in the mountains. I like being up in the hills, working on all of this wonderful stuff. I think that free Palestine is also very important. But I also want to give a shout out to our amazing supporters who have chipped in already this evening. Pirate Justin with the $2. Late Fee, Shabbat Shalom, Massey Kana 2028. Is Daddy home? With the $2 again. U.S. taxpayer is the most scammed group in the world. I agree. We have no say in how our taxation without representation. Citizen Pendejo with the 20 pesos. Israel didn't count on ex-MAGA's defying Tyler narrative. You're right. They didn't count on it, and now they don't know what to do. Sister Honda with the $5. Peace and blessings, Peter. Just want your input advice. Are you familiar with Congress' attempt to merge U.S. IDF military AI going on right now? Talking about it this minute, sister. If you're still here, I hope it's helpful. Like I said, we are adamant supporters of Kshama Sawant, who is running for Congress against the congressional Democratic representative of the last 30 years, Adam Smith, who co-authored the U.S. IDF military bill. Let's get her in. Lisa O'Connor with the 1999. Fuentes has been going in more directions than his thumbs. Yeah, let me tell you, I wasn't sure if they were messing with the image and that he didn't have digits that were that long. It looks like he really does have these very long digits coming right at your face. Duck and cover. Jim Talib with the $5. Always a pleasure, my friend. Citizen Pendejo with the 20 pesos again. First, Charlie Kirk was hesitant to flip on Israel. Fans moved him to. I think you're probably right. I think he understood that there was major consequences, not necessarily just his life, but also the prospect of being completely financially ruined. I think that that's something that he thought about too. Libertarian Social Dem with the $4.99. I came to the conclusion a lot of these groypers posing as anti-Zionists actually are secret Mossad plants pretending to be on the right side of the issue. I think there is definitely some truth to them being some type of a misdirect type organization that they kind of, coordinate together. I mean, how could it not be? Because when they do bad takes, they do really bad takes. Kami Poison Vermin with the $10. Also, thanks for the Plattner segment with Jen. Happy to provide it, my friend. Thank you for your support. Murdog, great to see you, my friend, with the $9.99. Yahweh Sinwar, valiant resistance fighter martyr. His last act of defiance was to throw a stick at the quadcopter that ratted him out in Rafah. His book, The Thorn and the Carnation, is on Internet Archive. Thank you very much for that, my friend. And 0744 Pete with the $5. Keep it up. Appreciate you, my friend. And finally, Melissa Miners, 1 month membership. My B-day is tomorrow. Wish me a happy early birthday. Melissa, I not only wish you a happy birthday, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you supporting the channel. And if I am making your birthday just a little bit happier, then I'm doing my job. Thank you for checking in. And thank you all for checking in. And it looks like I can't leave just yet. Ken Weisernick, thank you for the $5. Did you see the Brianna Joy interview with a DSA rep whose initiatives are DD? I forgot the guy's name. Very bizarre interview. Yes, I know what you're referring to, Ken. So again, as Jen and I pointed out, we don't do commentary on other commentators if the purpose is to just talk about more or less gossip. But the gist of the conversation with Bree and this gentleman from DSA that came on there is that Bree brought up Kshama Sawant, and she also brought up the DSA not pushing forward on force the vote. And the guy became so enraged by her bringing that up that he stormed off the interview. It's like, I'm not doing this. If you can't talk about force the vote, then talking about force the vote is definitely necessary. 1,000%. And so that's the thing that's great about Bree. She really knows how to push buttons. That's her modus operandi in many ways. She is intelligent. She is exceptionally well read on issues. She's very easy on the eyes, and she knows how to piss people off. And that is a recipe for success. And she's done very well. And Bree, in my opinion, is a true leftist, like a true person of left populist politics. And she doesn't pull punches. She also understands the importance of not mincing words about people who deserve the criticism that they get. So credit where it's due. And I again want to emphasize that I think we're heading in the right direction, even if things are not moving anywhere near as quickly as I would like them to. I think we can all agree that our efforts should not feel like they're in vain. There is a lot more work ahead of us. I also want to make sure that you all know that we are also on Rumble and Instagram at Revolutionary Change. We also have a TikTok. And if you want to see the shorts, you can also see them here on YouTube. I am going to ask each and every one of you that is still here, what I think can also help contribute to the algorithm after we end the stream. If you can just leave a comment directly on the stream as it concludes and then comes up as a finished stream. If you can leave a comment there, that will be tremendously appreciated. Every little thing that we do to help grow this channel makes all the difference in the world. And right now, we are fighting a behemoth with the inability to break through the algorithm. Because as I've pointed out time and again, as I pointed out earlier with one of the clips that we had to do, that initially within the first 2 days did no activity, and then the next thing you know, takes off. If you want a presidential, if you want impressions cost money, you got to pay. So if you want to hear something before I go, you got to get it in there quick. But the reason why you have a hard time hyping our channel, the reason why you're not able to see us that often is because they have marked our channel as repressed. We are not allowed to basically ever grow again. And this has been going on for a while. When it happens by accident. We had a big clip, like I said, started off at 1,500 views. It grew to about 15,000, which is the Jaylen Brown clip. And this basically brought in another slew of supporters who have all said, where have you come from? How long have you been doing this? Because I never heard of you before. Because again, the channel is suppressed and we are paying the price for being truth tellers. So anytime anybody comes on here and tries to give us shit about what our intentions are and whether we're trying to help people to do the right thing, you can say what you want, but you look like a fucking fool. We're trying to do the right thing the right way because that's the only way we know. If you don't have your honesty and integrity, then what do you have? Especially now. Is it worth watching innocent children get killed? Not to me, it's not. I have to live with myself, and so do each and every one of you. And if you're here, it's because you're here for the right reasons. So smash that like button, share, subscribe, do all those things we ask you to do. And then, of course, leave a comment right after we are done with the stream. We love you all. We appreciate you all. Jed and I will see you Monday in Free Palestine. Good night, guys.